On the show today, the A-League season kicks off.
Are the Wallabies favourites for the Rugby World Cup?
And is Golden Point the best way to finish a tied NRL game?
Stick around for all that and more. This is the Armchair Experts. Hello and welcome to the Armchair Experts, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Daniel Jeffrey, alongside me is Jordan Matthews, and together we'll be taking you through another big week of sporting action.
That's right, we'll be previewing the A-League season, which kicks off tonight, as well as having a bit of a look at who will be replacing Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool. But first, let's get some news headlines, where we'll start with the biggest news in international football.
FIFA President Sepp Blatter is facing a 90-day suspension from office. FIFA's Ethics Committee recommended the suspension after the Swiss Attorney General opened criminal proceedings against Blatter. The news heaps more pressure on the embattled FIFA president, who has been under intense scrutiny since a number of FIFA officials were arrested in May. The Wallabies will be forced into fielding a weakened side for their final Rugby World Cup group game with Wales. Vice-captain Michael Hooper has been suspended for one match for an illegal clean-out on England fullback Mike Brown, while fullback Israel Folau is struggling to shake off an ankle injury. Winger Rob Horne has already been ruled out with a dislocated shoulder, and centre Matt Giteau is also in doubt with a rib injury. Australia will take on Jordan tonight in their toughest FIFA World Cup qualifier so far. The Socceroos will be hoping to avoid a similar result to their last game in the country when they were beaten 2-1 by the hosts. Australia currently sits on top of its qualification group with 3 wins from as many games. Triple Premiership players Brian Lake and David Hale have called time on their AFL careers. Both Hawks players announced their retirements following Hawthorn's big win over West Coast in the grand final on Sunday. Lake was a 2-time All-Australian in a career for the Hawks and Western Bulldogs, while Hale was a key member of Hawthorn's 3 straight premierships. And finally, the end of one football season sees another one start, with the A-League kicking off tonight. The season begins with the Western Sydney Wanderers hosting the Brisbane Roar, while reigning premiers Melbourne Victory take on Adelaide United in a round 1 blockbuster on Friday night. Last season's runners-up Sydney FC start their campaign against Melbourne City on Saturday.
Yeah, so massive weekend ahead, obviously, for the first round of the A-League. Let's break it down a bit. Who do you think are the team to beat?
Impossible to look past Melbourne Victory on this one. They were very good last year, obviously taking home the Premier's Plate. They've lost Mark Milligan for this season, which is a bit of a loss, but you know they've got Carl Valeri to cover him in midfield, and then you look at these guys' forward line, and this is where it starts to get scary. I mean, Besart Barisha, Fayed Ben Kalfala, Guy Finkler, these guys, they just score goals for fun pretty much, and it's really hard to see any defence in the A-League really being able to stop these guys from scoring enough goals to win. Yeah,
definitely. And look, they're formidable in attack, and it's going to be very hard to knock them off. I guess one team we know is going to be there or thereabouts is Sydney FC. You know, they finished second last year. They had a strong season. You know, they've lost Yanko this year, who was their leading goal scorer up front, which is going to put a lot more emphasis on Shane Smeltz to score goals. But you know, they're always going to be there or thereabouts. So I guess that's another team to look out for.
Definitely.
And so, who do you think will be the biggest movers this year?
Melbourne City, I think they were a good side last year. They've really strengthened their squad with a couple of English Premier League veterans in Thomas Sorensen, Aaron Hughes. You know, those guys will add, first of all, a bit of class to the side and also plenty of experience. Aaron Moyes looked really sharp in pre-season so far, scoring plenty of goals in the FFA Cup, and we'll have a chat about him later. I've got Harry Novillo out wide as well, so they look to be a really well-rounded side. I think they'll do quite well this year.
Yeah, definitely. Look, it's very hard to look past Melbourne City as the big movers. I guess they finished 5th last year and they've gone to that next level that looks like they'll be genuine title contenders. So that's really exciting for, I guess, the 2 Melbourne sides to be so strong. You know, Adelaide United, they were there or thereabouts last year. They finished 3rd. I can't see them getting any worse, but I can't see them improving a lot. And, you know, it's hard to see Western Sydney doing as badly as they did last year. So I think they finished 9th. I think they'll be up around battling for that top 4.
So So yeah, obviously going to be very interesting to see how finals shapes up towards the end of the year. How about key players? Who have you got to keep an eye on this year?
Look, I think if Melbourne Victory are going to be as good as everyone expects them to be, Besar Parisha's going to have to be at his best again. He's played 4 seasons in the A-League. He's won 3 titles. He's scored 60-odd goals. The guy can play. And I think if they are to go all the way again, they're going to need him firing. And staying in Melbourne, I think Aaron Moy is obviously going to be City's key. It looks like he's going to get up the park a bit more in pre-season. Try to score a few more goals. He's a dead ball specialist, so that's another advantage that he really gives them. There was a lot of interest in him from Europe, and he's managed to stay at City. So it's a massive, massive hold for them, and I think he'll be the key player.
Yeah, 2 very, very influential players there. I'm going to look outside of Melbourne and say Jeffrey Sarpong, the former Netherlands youth international who's now joined the Wellington Phoenix. He's going to be big for them. Obviously, the Phoenix losing Nathan Burns to Tokyo after his amazing season last year. Sarpong's got a huge hole to fill. He hasn't been a big goal scorer in his career so far, but he's got experience playing in the Dutch Eredivisie. He's played a bit in La Liga, so that experience will really help him settle. He's incredibly important for the Phoenix. And another player who will be key is Sydney's Shane Smeltz. Now, obviously, mentioned earlier, Mark Yanko's gone. Plenty of pressure on Shane Smeltz. He needs to really make sure that he fills that void that Yanko has left. Needs to start scoring goals, score them quickly. If he doesn't, if he flops a bit, if he doesn't get into good form, then Sydney are going to really struggle to replicate last season's success.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very exciting season. It all kicks off tonight, obviously. But moving on now, and after the thrilling finish to the NRL Grand Final on Sunday, Wayne Bennett renewed calls for Golden Point to be scrapped. We hit the campus corner to find out what rugby league fans think.
I reckon it's a great thing, especially with the grand final. It was so good to see Thurston, slot over.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I would have preferred it if Jonathan Thurston just kicked the goal, but it was still really good, and I cried at the end.
If 2 teams are equally matched to the level they are, that 80 minutes can't decide them, then a field goal or just a golden point, I think, is a viable way of settling who's the better team.
What's golden point?
I reckon golden point's the best thing in the NRL. It gives a bit of a thrill at the end of the game,
Personally, I don't like it. Kicking a field goal from 20, 30 metres out just sort of ruins the game. Rather than trying to score tries, the teams are just trying to get in a good position to kick a field goal. Kind of almost makes it look like rugby union.
I think after waiting that long for the game to, get a score, I think golden point is a great way to end it quickly and get the final result.
Yeah, obviously the fans love it, don't they? But, personally, I think 5 minutes each way works best for me. You're never going to get rid of the dropped goal out of extra time play, but at least having the chance to respond to it, score a try or a field goal yourself, it's the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah, I think 5 minutes either way would work quite nicely. But for me, I'd like to see, if the NRL wants to keep that kind of sudden death feel, make it a golden try. I think drop goal can just be a bit too easy, but to score a try, you really got to work for it. But let's move on now to what we learnt this week. And Jordan, what do you got for us?
Look, Matador Cup domestic one-day competition started this week, and for me, I learnt that there's going to be a lot of runs scored, and it's going to be a tough old time for the bowlers. They changed the format, obviously, in the last couple of years to play the competition in one zone over a month period, and they've been played at small boutique grounds in Sydney. Grounds like North Sydney Oval, Hurstville Oval. On the first day, the 3 games on the first day, we had 7 centuries scored, including a massive double ton by Travis Head from South Australia. So we know there's going to be plenty of runs scored. It's going to be tough for the bowlers, but it's probably not a bad thing. I guess we need batsmen scoring runs in our domestic cricket, and this might be the perfect opportunity, even though it is one-day cricket. Yeah,
it certainly looks like it's going to be a run fest. What I learnt this week, though, was that Australia, they're genuine favourites for the Rugby World Cup. It might be premature, it might be biased, it might be way too Australian, but they're playing better rugby than anyone else in the tournament. New Zealand haven't been that convincing so far. South Africa had a big win last night, but they lost to Japan early on, whereas Australia looking really good. Obviously, losing Michael Hooper for the game against Wales could hurt them. Israel Folau being injured and Rob Horne being injured hurts them as well, but I think Michael Shaker's got them playing really good rugby, and if they keep that up, I can't even see the All Blacks beating them.
Yeah, definitely. Look, obviously New Zealand, South Africa, tough sides to beat, but Australia look to be the informed team in the tournament, don't they?
Moving on now, and with the Hawks AFL Premiership celebrations dying down now, the footy world's attention has been turned to free agency. Now, free agency is a tried and true method of player transfers the world over in many different sports, but the AFL system leaves a lot to be desired. We hit the whiteboard to break it down.
Since the introduction of AFL free agency in 2012, the month following the grand final has often been the most interesting and influential time of the year. In short, free agency gives players a vehicle to transfer to another club of their choice, rather than being traded when they come out of contract. There are two types of free agents, restricted and unrestricted. A restricted free agent earned in the top 25% at their club, played at least 8 seasons there and is out of contract for the first time. Example, Patrick Dangerfield. He came out of contract at the end of the year and has nominated Geelong as his preferred side. But the Crows are playing hardball by matching the Cats' offer to ensure that they get the best deal for their superstar. And so they should. On the other hand, an unrestricted free agent can nominate their preferred destination. And providing that club wants to sign them, they are, well, unrestricted. With the free agency system coming under review in 2016, there is no shortage of critics calling for change. Former Brownlow medalist Jason Ackermanis is one. He claims the system is not working because Hawthorn have had the opportunity to sign quality free agents in the last 3 years, despite clearly being the best side in the league. The Hawks managed to bolster their star-studded squad by signing Brian Lake, James Frawley and Ben McAvoy since 2012. One of the beauties of the AFL draft system is to ensure the cyclical nature of premierships continue, and that everyone has the chance to succeed, providing they manage their list well. But as Ackermanis points out, the current system seems to be making it much easier for the already strong clubs to recruit the best free agents. So if AFL free agency is keeping the weak sides down the bottom of the ladder, should it continue? Or is Acker just worried about the Hawks going one better than his Lions could in 2004?
So yeah, obviously a really convoluted issue, this one, and you could devote an entire episode to it, but for me, I'd just love the AFL to go to a more American-style free agency system where everyone comes off contract on a certain date, then they're free to sign with whoever they want, not based on how many years they've been on the club, based on their contract.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think it only really skims the surface of what this whole issue is about, and I think clubs are often torn between, losing that superstar player and then the compensation they actually get out of it, because this free agency system doesn't really give them a great deal, and I guess that's what we're seeing with Patrick Dangerfield at the moment. Adelaide are really struggling with what's best for him, and also the compensation they can get out of losing the best player on their list. Moving on now, and it's time to preview the week ahead with the Fast 5 questions. So we'll start in the EPL. A lot of talk about it this week. Do you think Jürgen Klopp is the right man to take Liverpool forward and replace Brendan Rodgers?
Absolutely. And he's an extremely charismatic manager, which I think Liverpool fans would be really glad to see. Brendan Rodgers was always a bit dour in front of the media, but more importantly, Klopp, the football he plays, it's attacking, it's high octane. Liverpool's always kind of valued that kind of approach. More importantly, that football's been successful. He's won 2 Bundesligas, got his side to the Champions League final. I think he'd be great. Yeah,
definitely. And look, a lot has been made about Liverpool's transfer committee, and I think Klopp's the sort of guy that can take a really strong approach to that and get Liverpool what they really need in the transfer market. Take that pedigree and his knowledge to the transfer committee and really say, this is what we need and this is what we're going to get. So I think he's definitely the right man for the job.
Okay, so let's move on to another English Premier League club with a bit of pressure around them. Should Chelsea sack Jose Mourinho?
Well, it's been quite a lot of talk of it lately, hasn't there? And I guess rightly so. The last time Chelsea started this poorly to an EPL season was, 37 years ago. And they were relegated that season as well. Look, I don't think anyone's saying they're going to be battling relegation, but there's obviously a lot of pressure on his job. But I think the question is, is there anyone better to replace him?
Maybe Brendan would stick his hand up for the job.
Well, he's just out of one, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, you look at Chelsea's squad, and that squad is way too good to be in the relegation battle. And usually when that happens, questions get asked about the manager. I think, as you said, though, is there anyone really better to replace Mourinho? I mean, he's a proven manager, so it'd be interesting to keep an eye on this one.
All right, so returning home now, Cameron Bancroft made a big 100 in his Matador Cup narrow loss to South Australia the other day. Do you think he's booked himself a spot at the top of the order for Australia in the Tests?
He hasn't done his chances any harm, but by the same token, there's no such thing as a sure as a sure thing for the Test side, especially when you haven't made your debut yet. I mean, I'd love to see him get a gig in the Test side for the series against New Zealand. He's playing great cricket at the moment. He's still got some work to do, though.
Yeah, look, there's no sure thing with these selectors anyway, really, is there? And I guess the other thing is his opening partner in that game for Western Australia was Shaun Marsh, who made 100 as well. Michael Clark has come out and said that the selectors should pick and stick with an opening pair. He suggested Marsh and Warner. Look, we'll see what happens, but I think you're right. Bancroft's doing no harm by scoring runs and continuing to score runs. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, now looking at the AFL again, a lot has been made of this one recently. Which is the better side? Brisbane Lions from the early 2000s or the last 3 years Hawthorn Hawks?
Look, it's going to be one of those debates that rages on forever, really, until we get another superstar team that comes along. Look, for me, it's really hard to go against Brisbane. You know, they had 3 Brownlow medalists running around in that team. You know, their forward line was extremely potent. Alistair Lynch, Jonathan Brown, Daniel Bradshaw. Their defence, you know, is probably not as strong as the Hawks, but, you know, they were tried and proven. They had a really tough side, and the interesting thing is they never won a minor premiership, but they won 3 premierships in a row. So, you know, they knew finals footy.
Yeah, well, so did the Hawks. I'm going to go with Hawthorn on this one. I think their backline is just lethal, partly by neutralising opposition forwards. You saw Josh Kennedy hardly touch the ball on the weekend, but also getting forward, you know, guys like Isaac Smith who just kicks goals off half-back, and then their midfield is just incredible. I mean, Jordan Lewis, Sam Mitchell, Luke Hodge. I can't go past Hawthorn on this one.
All right, so we'll go back to the Rugby World Cup to finish off. Do you think Australia can beat Wales without Rob Horne, Israel Folau and Michael Hooper?
Well, I've just said they're favourites for the tournament, so I'm hardly going to say no, am I? I mean, it makes it more difficult, especially Hooper's loss. You know, he's so influential around the breakdown, but they've got David Pocock there who's playing brilliantly. Kurtley Beale will replace Folau if he can't play, and he played a really good game on the weekend against England, so I think Australia can definitely still beat Wales, even without those guys.
Yeah, look, Wales have been playing some good rugby, but Australia's got a pretty good record against them, and they're the forms team in the tournament at the moment, so it's hard to see them losing.
Now, guys, we're running out of time for today, but before we go, we'll leave you with a suggestion for something to have a look at. And with the cricket season starting this week, I reckon it'd be a good idea to have a look at the documentary Cricket in the 80s. Looks at how Australian cricket transitioned from a very difficult time in World Series cricket all the way up to Alan Border's wonderful side that toured England and won the Ashes against the odds. Great documentary. Check it out. We'll chuck the link in the description.
All right, guys, that's all we've got time for this week. So make sure you check us out on Facebook and Twitter, as well as subscribing to UOW TV to catch up with all the latest episodes.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be back next Thursday with another instalment of all your sporting news. Until then, grab yourselves a good armchair to check out all the cricket action this week, and we'll see you then. Take care.